Hello, welcome to Courageous Consciousness. I'm DJ Gallup, and today I'm going to tell you guys about something that makes me really, really weird, and my friends think is really, really weird about me. And that is that I will not and do not consciously watch any violent media at all. I do not watch any movies, TV shows, video games, news reports. I don't watch anything with violence in it. And this is a conscious decision I've been making for myself over the last few years. It's something now that my friends are pretty aware of when they invite me to things. They're like, oh, well, we're going to go see this movie and we'll invite you or we'd invite you, but, watch violence. And that is totally okay. I have learned to deal with that. But I did want to explain to you guys why that I decided to make this choice. And I'm going to encourage you guys to make the same choice, although I know that is a really tough sell because I'm sure a lot of you guys love going out watching action movies or horror movies, or you like that video game, Call of War or whatever it's called. I don't know anything about video games. Anyway, but here is why I chose to go down this path here. And the first reason was because, I joined a meditation group some years ago. In our meditation group, we do a reading of the 5 mindfulness trainings, which were created by Thich Nhat Hanh. We do that once a month. And one of the mindfulness trainings is about not consuming violent media. And when I first started reading that passage and hearing that passage being read, it hit me a little bit, but just like you guys, I liked going out and watching action movies and having fun with my friends doing that. So I wasn't quite ready to give that up just yet. But then what kind of hit me a little bit more was I was going through my spiritual readings. I'm always doing spiritual reading. And I was reading a bunch of things by Wayne Dyer, and he had recommended a book by this guy named David Hawkins. And the book he recommended was called Power versus Force. Now, I'm going to be doing some specific videos on this series of books in the near future, but if you've never read them, if you are on your path of spiritual development, you may just want to pick some of these up at some point. They're kind of interesting. Well, they're very interesting, actually. But I'm going to try and briefly explain what David Hawkins says and what he does in his books. So David Hawkins he was a psychiatrist, very successful. He later got into muscle testing, applied kinesiology stuff. And what he did was he created this scale from 0 to 1,000, like a calibration scale, 0 to 1,000. And down toward the bottom, down toward 0, are base human existence and lower emotions. So things like fear, anger, resentment, revenge, things like that are calibrated toward the lower end, usually between 0 and 200 on his scale. And then the higher up you go on David Hawkins' scale, you're hitting these better feeling emotions. So you're hitting joy, peace, love, unconditional love, etc. So what he found was, after he created this calibration scale, was that he could go all around the world, and he had a whole group of research assistants with him. He could go all around the world, North America, Europe, Asia, didn't matter. He could test people across the world about all sorts of different things and come up with calibrations. But the interesting thing was, it didn't matter if the person knew about what they were being asked about, if they had ever seen that TV show, if they had ever seen that movie, if they've ever heard of that world leader, whatever they were being asked about. It didn't matter if they had any experience or prior knowledge of what they were being asked about. What was really interesting was that David Hawkins found pretty much across the board that almost across the board he got the same calibrations for things. So in some of his books, he had calibrated movies and TV shows. And what he found was that movies and TV shows that had a lot of violent activity in them, and when I say violent, I don't just mean physical violence. I'm not just talking about gunshots or bombs. It's also violent words, violent phrases, violent threats, things like that. So media that had a lot of that stuff in it calibrated really, really low. It was basically media of a very low vibration energy. And that is not what we want to have around us. But the reason why it's low vibration, low energy to have that violence in a movie is because that movie then was designed to instill fear or anger or other negative emotions in you, right? I mean, we go to a horror movie because we kind of like that feeling of being scared, that feeling of being in fear, really, right? And so those movies are of a very low calibration, of a very low vibration. And I have to say, as an energy worker myself, I am very, very sensitive to energy. And so what I found was, as I started not watching these movies, not watching these TV shows, even not watching news reports as much, I started feeling so much lighter. I started feeling my vibration getting higher and higher because I wasn't consuming these low negative vibration energies. But I would say even more than just, these readings I do in meditation and the Hawkins books, I would say for me personally, I also personally believe that life is the greatest gift we are given, and the energy of life that surrounds all of us is one of the most beautiful gifts that we have in this world around us. And so when we are watching things that show violence, that show death, that show murder, it is just part of this larger culture where we are devaluing life. And I know that may not register with absolutely everyone out there, but to me, I can't imagine going back and watching action movies the way I used to. I remember when I first started kind of avoiding violent media, I had gone to see one of the Superman movies with my husband. I can't remember which one, but it was one of the more recent Superman movies with my husband. And to me, I was willing to go see a Superman movie because I think Superman is this big hero, right? Superman always comes in and he saves the day. That's what I thought. But I couldn't help but notice as we were going through the movie how many deaths were being portrayed in this movie. I mean, buildings were crumbling, people are running through the streets, cars are flying down the street, from whatever bad guy is, forcing them to do so. And as we got into those final action scenes at the end of the movie, because of course every action movie has those big scenes at the end of the movie where it all comes to the climax, I just said, I can't deal with this. This is too low vibration energy for me. I actually got up and I left. And ever since then, I have not seen another movie or TV show with violence. And it's not that I'm some sort of little snowflake either. Back when I was in high school and college, me and my friend Becky, we were at the opening of every single slasher flick. And I used to really love them at that point. But now, since I've been on my spiritual path and I've been spiritually developing for myself, I have found that consuming media of that low energy, of that low vibration, is just not helping me on my path to becoming the person I want to be. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and certainly I would recommend that everyone avoids violent movies, violent TV shows, even the news. When I watch news reports recently, of course, we had several mass shootings here in America recently. I think we had 4 in the last couple of weeks. When we're watching the news, it's one thing to get the news. I like to be aware of the fact that these shootings happened as much as anyone does. But where I really like to take a step away from the media in that regard is because then they try to instill a sense of fear in us about these violent actions going on in our lives. And that's not something we need. Generally, we live in a very safe, beautiful world filled with love and filled with life. And that is what we have to recognize in the world around us, not the violence. We need to recognize the love and the life around us. So I know that this might be a tough sell, getting you guys not to watch violent movies or TV shows, especially because your friends probably like to do them too, and it's a social activity. But if you are on a spiritual path and you really want to, kick it up into the next gear, and you really want to improve your own personal vibrations, one thing you can do, and it's a fairly easy thing to do, is just say no to consuming violent media. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to leave it there today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Of course, I love comments. Let me know what you think about the video. Of course, I love it if you hit the like button and if you would subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'm making videos on the regular now, so I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have a most wonderful, wonderful day.